Hi everybody and welcome to the shed. I'm just working on the Magna, putting some parabolic headlights in. I've done one side already and I've got the second side to go. I'm not really doing this video for how to pull a headlight out and how to put a headlight back in, but I'll probably be just a little bit of that. Mostly when I went to do this, it was the wiring that I found a little bit difficult to find some information on, so I'm going to focus on that a little bit and some modifications needed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that one out and I'm going to just show you a few things we've done. When I take my headlights out, I found it's easy if we undo 1, 2, 3 bolts on the front guard there. That way it gets the guard. You can lift it a little bit to get a bit more space to get the headlight out. Then there's just for the headlight out, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts here, and then there's a bolt that goes underneath the indicator through up underneath the bumper bar. That bolts the indicator frame or the headlight frame onto the chassis as well, and that's about it. They're all 10mm bolts, so that's pretty easy to work with. And also for the driver's side, I need to take the washer bottle out so you can get in behind there as well. So we're going to do a little bit of that and let's see how we go. So I've got the headlight out of there. As I said, I just find that if you unbolt the top of the guard there for the first 3 bolts, it just means you can lift the guard up a little bit there. I've got a screwdriver just pried underneath there, and it gives it just a little bit more room to get that headlight out. You can take the bumper bar out to do it, and you have taken them out without doing that, but it gives it a little bit more room with less of a struggle, so less likely to scratch your bar there. So we've got our standard plugs behind there. I'll show you what to do with this wiring and wire in a minute. Yeah, we'll see how we go from there. So if I go over to where I've got the 2 headlights at the moment, so this one here is the parabolic headlight, the back of it that's going in, and this here is the standard executive type headlight that we've just taken out. So if we look at the back, you'll notice some differences with the way the cups on, the seals. These parabolic headlights I'm putting in are off a 97 Verada, and it's going into my 2002 Magna. So the things you'll notice with the executive setup, we've got the high low beam bulb, the 3 prongs, and you've got your standard high beam bulb with 2 prongs, and on the Verada one you've just got a 2-prong single filament bulb on the Parker side, low beam side, and you've got the high beam there as well. So if you use the standard wiring, what will happen with the standard wiring is if you leave the wiring as is and do nothing else, when you turn your low beam on, you'll have low beam, and that's all good. But when you turn your high beam on, your low beam will switch off and you'll have only the high beam. So what we want to happen is to have, when we have high beam, is to have both the low beam light on and the high beam light on as well. So what we need to do with that, there's a little bit around on the forums and on the internet if you look around, but the main thing we need to do, we can rewire and use different sockets, or we can use our main socket here. This is our low beam, high beam socket, and this is the one we're going to use. There's nothing big we have to do. We can use this socket, but what we need to do is the 3 wires that are there. You see that there's a white wire on this one with a red trace, and there's a red wire with a white trace, and there's a straight red wire only. So what we need to do is we need to cut this straight red wire, and we need to add a wire to it, and we need to earth that out to the chassis somewhere. And by doing that, we'll be able to have both lights on when we've got the high beam on. So what I've done so far is I have prepared a wire which I'm going to use. So I've got a loop terminal on one end for the earthing out, and I've pre-soldered the other end. So what I've got to do now is I've got to cut that red wire, just turn this part from the harness back around, tape it up, and the part from the socket is where we connect this to. So I'll do that, and then I'll show you how that looks. So there's the wire soldered in, so it goes into the plug side. That there. The wire that we trimmed off is there in the harness. We're just going to fold that back and we're going to tape that up. Of course I'll tape that up and secure it all. And I have earthed that back under where the water bottle there's a earth, you can see where the torch is a bit bright there, there's a an earth screw already there. On the passenger side, behind the fuse box, there's an earth screw underneath the fuse box, and it was a bit hard to get to, so for mine I actually created, and let's see, can we see it? Yeah, down in there I drilled and created another earth point, so I've connected to that. And so with that, you'll be able to run both your low beams and high beams at the same time, and of course low beams when required as well, so in the correct manner that's meant to be run. So very simple there. The other plug, we don't need to change that at all, we just use that as it is, and we ought to plug it all back together. So I'm going to tape that up, and then there's another modification with a park light that we've got to do, and I'll show you that when I get it done, or before and after. And yeah, that's pretty much a lot of it, so stay tuned. So the wiring done over there, we've got to go through the next little bit of trouble. So we've got in there where you can, this part in here, where the Parker bulb right there usually goes into, you'd fit the Parker bulb in. These ones came with this little fitting here, and I thought I might just so we could get a housing and reuse that, but nobody where I am seems to have that. Now I've gone to a number of places. So the original Parker bulb that came out of the executive style lights is this one here. So it's a plastic housing with the push-in type bulb, and it had a couple of wires that went through a grommet on the back of the light. So it went through this grommet here, through the back of the light there, and then come around through there. So I found that probably not the best way to do it, but it works, is to the rubber boot that goes over there. I just punch 2 holes in there, pass the wires through that, and the other thing that's got to happen is we've got to pull that fitting out in there to make that hole a little bit bigger. It's not quite big enough to fit that plastic in. So there's 2 screws down in there, so one down in there, and there's a screw there. They need to come out, and then we just make that hole a little bit bigger. I just use a little grinder type wheel on my Bunnings Aceto cutter, and that's about that. So I'll get that done and I'll show you when it's ready. So I've cut that enough now that bulb holder will go in there all the way in. You need to make sure that you don't cut it too much, that it's a loose fit. It needs to actually still be a tight fit in there. I might put the camera down and put that together. So let's see. So that'll go in there like that. Okay. And that needs to be just a tight fit there, so it doesn't fall out. So once that's in, that can go back into the housing. I'll see if I can do that. Needs to go back into here. I'll just pop that bulb out of the way first. Let's bring that clip up out of the way, bulb out. It goes in one way around. There we go. Okay, so when you need to be able to just pull that fitting back out again to change the bulb, hopefully not in a while. Okay, so I'll screw that back up, and I'll pull those leads through the cover. I've got to solder them back together again because I had to cut them to get the plug. There's a plug that plugs into your wiring harness there, so I need to cut those to get it through that grommet, and then I'll get it back through the seal that goes on the back here. Okay. Alright, so the Parker cable's back in, and I've just punched 2 holes using a scribe to put it through the seal there. It's not the best way to do it. It is one of the easiest ways. You could alternatively, and would be better, to use the grommet that I showed you before, and drill a hole through here, pass the grommet through there. I think that would be the spot for it, and do it that way. It would be a better job, but this is definitely easier and it works. So that's the way I've gone with that. So I've soldered that back up, put it back together, and that's all ready to go back in. I've decided, so these lights were off a, like I say, off a 97 Verada. They had the original orange indicators there, so I've gone with the clear. I like those better. They're the two-piece glass, with the glass headlight, and yeah, I like those better. No fading and so on. So that's ready to go back in. So I'll put those back in, and then we'll have a look, see how it looks. There we go. Okay, so there they are fitted, and they do work. I'll show you in a second. I think they look a bit cooler than the executive lights. I do have to focus them, but yeah, that's another story. So let's see. We'll put our parkers on. You can see that. So parkers are on. It's good. Low beam. So you got a low beam on. And what you would do if you didn't do that little wiring change, you would then go to high beams and you wouldn't have low beams. So on. So now we have all on. So that's really good. So it looks a lot better and not too hard a job. So there you go. Thanks for watching. Bye.